officials, which is good because they work for us. We've captured the attention of so many press and news articles, but we have been turning out in the thousands at every single campus. I'd like to invite Teresa Chapman, a clinical lab scientist from the blood bank, on up. Give her a warm welcome. Are you coming up, Joey? Perfect, with Joey Nunez in solidarity.
Hi everyone, please bear with me, I'm so nervous. My name is Teresa Chapman. I'm a licensed clinical lab scientist, and I've worked for the UCSF Transfusion Service, our blood banks, for over 17 years. My lab operates 24/7 every day of the year, managing the blood supply for the entire Mission Bay Hospital. We perform testing for blood transfusions, match and prepare blood products, assist with organ transplant compatibility, and store donated human blood vessels for surgery. In 2020, when the temporary hiring freeze was implemented, we were already understaffed, down by several. During that unfathomable year, inside the hospital, we tried our best to hang in there as a team. By mid-2022, we were finally granted 3 minimally trained temporary staff, while the remaining team shouldered the rest of the work. When we voiced concerns, management repeatedly told us that it was the best they could do. As a result, multiple permanent staff then left for better paying travel contracts with better schedules and work-life balance. This led to worsening morale, more lab errors, and delays that frustrated clinicians. We were forced to rush replacement staff through training, who then complained about feeling inadequately prepared. This is unacceptable in a lab where mistakes can harm or kill patients. UCSF's willingness to take such risks, especially with the delicate pediatric cases, is truly beyond comprehension. Meanwhile, our workload has only vastly increased. UCSF takes on complex cases from across the region and supports cutting-edge clinical trials, particularly in the field of maternal fetal medicine. Our blood bank handles very specialized pediatric services, such as neonatal blood exchange and intrauterine transfusion, so the transfusion of unborn babies. We are a critical resource for pediatric cardiac surgery, oncology, stem cell transplant, labor and delivery, research, and more. We must also be available 24/7 for emergencies. Between June and October of last year, we lost 5 fully trained staff, including 1 specialist, a supervisor, and 1 CLS who walked off the job and quit mid-shift, citing untenable conditions. Training new hires now takes 16 weeks at a minimum, with approximately a year needed to feel confident. This rate of turnover is unsustainable and dangerous. At one point recently, we had no regular evening staff for over a month, relying on temps and burned out colleagues covering overtime. Supervisors are consumed with rearranging the schedules in order to cover training and minimum staffing needs, rather than improving our procedures or focusing more on preparing for the software upgrade, which is coming this May, for which none of us have yet been trained. I personally was on call for 64 hours during one pay period recently. We do constant overtime on top of our regular schedules, with techs working 8 to 12 days or more in a row. Yet, our vacation requests are regularly denied due to constant understaffing. After serving UCSF through the pandemic, including while I was pregnant with twins, this feels like a demoralizing slap in the face. Doctors deserve timely, accurate lab results so they can make critical decisions. The OR staff need assurance that they'll have blood when they need it. Nurses shouldn't face excessive delays for properly tested and labeled blood products. The patients deserve safe and efficient transfusion care. And lab staff deserve adequate support and rest so we can do our jobs effectively. Mine is just one story in one of the many different clinical lab departments. Largely invisible to the patients, the work that we do behind the scenes is essential to the diagnosis and treatment of disease. We cannot sustain UCSF's mission of healing, teaching, and discovery without well-trained, dedicated staff. To attract and retain talent, we need improved working conditions, support, and meaningful compensation. We never wanted to come to this point, but staff and patients deserve so much better, and I hope UC's unfair labor practices will end soon. Thank you.
It is so important to tell these kinds of stories. These, part of this is these issues are systemic, and every one of us that takes that step to be vulnerable and speak up, it really, really matters. Next, I'd like to invite a colleague of mine up to the stage, Emily Holland. Give her a warm welcome.
We'll see. All right. Sure. Hello, everybody. My name is Emily Holland. I am a principal animal technician at Mission Bay. I work in a cancer research lab, and I am responsible for taking care of all of the mice responsible for the first step of biomedical progress. I joined UC because I wanted to work for the good of the future of medicine, not just the present, but I want to think about the patients in 10 years, in 20 years. And where does that start? That starts with research. And where does research often require is good animal care. We rely on animals to save the lives of our patients. The animals don't have a union. We have to be their union. Our animal technicians, every day, 365 days of the year, on Christmas, on Thanksgiving, doesn't matter. There is an animal technician in your building right now taking care of your mice. We have mice that have cancer from patients still living in the hospital waiting for their treatment. If that mouse dies, that patient might die too. Our department operates on a shoestring budget. We rely on per diems. We have to charge the research staff to house their mice, and we can't charge them more than a certain amount because of the funding environment is unstable. If we charge too much, the research shuts down. Why are we charging them for our services when the university is already garnishing their grant money for the purported reason to pay for overhead? If I'm not overhead, then where's that money going? What does this result in? Not just for the welfare of the animals, but for the workers. When we don't have enough staff and when the staff are not being paid enough, they have to cover each other when people are gone, and we're not allowed to take overtime because we're poor. Our department can't afford to pay overtime on a daily basis when people are out sick. We don't have enough floaters to cover each other. So what does that mean? That means people injure themselves doing 14 hours of work in 8 hours. I have a coworker who's here with us today. He suffered from a double wrist injury, covering, stole by himself an animal building, covering for an employee who had the exact same injury. He was out for 19 weeks on disability leave. When he came back, they gave him the legally required accommodations for a few weeks, and then they conveniently forgot about them when people started calling in sick, going on vacation, and they didn't have enough floaters. He's not even the only worker in my building with a wrist injury. Another thing that the university does to us is they hire new employees as temp workers with the promise of keeping them on after 6 months of probation and no benefits. And then they don't. And they don't hire them. They just keep them as temps forever and ever until somebody quits because they can't afford their insulin. I had a coworker go weeks without insulin, and the only reason they hired him was because I told my boss that he was going to quit because he was risking his life being there for the animals.
Right.
So how do we get the university to listen to us? How do we get the university to fund our departments that are essential for the research that makes the UC famous? When workers' rights are under attack, what do we do? Stand up, fight back! Thank you.